sometimes getting a record deal is the worst thing that ever happened to a band. Many bands fail simply because they get a record deal. They might have made it if it weren't for the record deal. A band ought to sit back and think long and hard about, do they really want a record deal? These days, there are a lot of people who turn them down, and turn them down intentionally. They run the numbers, and it turns out that you can do the math. If you print your own CDs, and you can get them done for less than $1 a piece, and you can do most of the recording on Pro Tools or some other computer generated thing, and maybe let's just say that you got $5,000 tied up in production, and you sell 90,000 copies of them for $10 a piece. Go do the math. You'd have to sell millions in a record company deal to get that. Another thing that's a negative side of a record company deal that most bands don't really sort of keep in mind, and that is the record company only has X amount of energy that they can expend promoting their artist. And sometimes the biggest single challenge that an artist has is just getting the attention of the record company. They can only promote a handful of artists at one time. They can only go to radio programmers and pitch so many people. They can't sit there and pitch 25 or 30 different artists. And so sometimes the biggest challenge that the artist has is getting the attention of the record label inside the record label. And so just because you got a record label deal doesn't mean that you're going to get attention. And the record labels are smart. They go to where there's the most high likelihood of success. And so if the record company's got a choice between promoting U2's new album and promoting your first album, well, guess which one's going to get the attention? Because anybody could promote U2's album. They're like falling off a log. They get them on Name Your Favorite program. They get them on television. They get them on anywhere they want them. They get them. They get them on newspapers, whatever. But if you're an unknown band and you're a brand new band, what motivation do they have to do that? So it's very, very difficult. It takes a lot of money, takes a lot of energy, and the payoff, the likelihood, the risk of that's of success, and that's pretty low. And so sometimes getting a record label deal is the kiss of death for a band, because they get at a record label, but the record label doesn't promote them. They can't. They don't have the resources that it takes to promote them. So my first counsel to an independent artist would be to think long and hard about whether you really want a record label deal or not, especially these days. These days it's tough. Another thing that that an artist better look over is that contract. And you better read that contract very carefully, and you better not have your family lawyer that drew up your grandparents' will read that contract. You have better had somebody who's an entertainment attorney that does that specifically read over that contract. But can you start looking at what you're being charged for? You look at how much you're being charged for doing that, and then you start running the numbers to see how many of these things you're going to have to sell before you break even. You might want to walk away from it. So a lot of new artists in particular think that Nirvana, is getting some record label deal, when in fact oftentimes it's the kiss of death, for the bands.